welcome back to my channel. So today I'm going to be showing you guys how to do a basic sew-in. So starting off, you just want to make sure that you know where you want your part to be. That's always a really good starting point for doing any type of install. And this client in particular wanted a middle part. Now I will tell you, sometimes it is kind of hard to find exactly the middle, you know, just because our heads are not 100% symmetrical on both sides. Sometimes I even have the client part it themselves just to make sure that they have the part exactly where they want it to be. But you want to go ahead and make your first part. And what I'm doing right now is just taking some hair around the perimeter of her head, or, you know, people call them edges, I guess. And I am just going to section this hair away. Now this hair is not going to be braided down or anything like that. This is just going to be like a leave out, so just in case the wind blows, you know, we have a nice seamless install and our tracks are covered. Now normally I would go all the way around the perimeter of the entire head and, you know, leave some leave out for the back as well so the client can put the hair up in the ponytail. But she didn't want any of her hair out in the back. She wanted everything braided up and under this protective hairstyle. So what I'm doing right now is just sectioning off the part, and I'm going to grab about a ½ an inch around the perimeter of the actual part. And altogether I have maybe about an inch of hair that I'm going to go ahead and section off. And you guys see there's my part in the middle, and this is just going to be enough hair that's going to help us cover the track there in the end. So this hair is not going to get braided, it's just going to get sectioned off to the side. Now I'm just showing you guys where I'm going to start my anchor braids, and these are the braids that I feel like are the most important braids because they kind of hold the style into place, hence why we call them the anchor braids. But starting at the back of that middle part, I'm just going to go ahead and take a really small section, and I'm just parting that off to be braided down. Now you want this braid to be as tiny as possible. I mean, not too small, but just, you know, small enough where, you know, it's safe to still sew to this braid, but, you know, small enough also where it's not too bulky. So I'm just going to clip the remaining hair out of the way so I can go ahead and start braiding. Now when you're braiding, whether you're braiding your own hair or someone else's hair, it is so important to remember to not braid too tight. There's so many people who have had damage done to their hair, their scalp, their hair follicles because their stylist or, you know, whoever was putting their hair in braided their hair too tight. It is very dangerous to braid your hair too tight, so definitely be careful of that. And if you're the person getting your hair done, your hair should definitely not be tight to the point where, you know, you feel like your scalp is like inflamed or anything like that. And as you can see, I just went ahead and did that perimeter braid. I went all the way around that parting in the middle and then the back as well. So now what I'm going to do is part the remaining hair into 4 sections. This is something that I've been doing for a very long time, and I feel like this is the easiest and most, I guess, efficient way that I can do a sew-in. Some people like to do like the beehive method where they braid the whole head into like one braid. I just feel like, I don't know, my fingers cramp. That takes me way too long to do. So doing 4, I guess, little mini beehives is the way to go for me. And I'm going to show you guys what I'm talking about with this first section. So as you can see, I'm parting. My parting is still kept really small, or thin rather. And I'm just going to be going around in a circle. And this is setting me up for the braid that I'm getting ready to cornrow against the head. Again, not pulling the hair too tight. I'm just going to go ahead and braid this down into a circular motion. Now, like I said before, there are definitely a lot of different ways that you can braid down your hair for a sew-in, but this is what works for me. This has been my method for a long time, and it works. I get it done. My clients say that their sew-ins last for a really long time, and you know, if it's not broke, don't fix it. So I also wanted to mention that as I'm braiding down her hair, I am using a conditioner. It's kind of like a braid conditioner from Shea Moisture to help keep her hair moisturized under this install. So that's also something that you want to keep in mind too when you're braiding your hair down. You know, it's a little bit of friction there when you're braiding that hair down, so you definitely want to make sure that your strands are lubricated. And when you're wearing a sew-in, normally it's going to be in for a little bit of time, so you want to make sure that your hair is nice and healthy under that install. So using any type of oil or some type of styling cream or serum or anything like that to help you braid down the hair is always a good idea. And as I'm coming to the end of that braid, I'm just going to go ahead and braid it all the way down to the end, because what I'm going to do later is tuck that braid in between and just sew it down. So as you can see, I just went ahead and braided down the rest of those 4 sections, and this is what my foundation looks like when it is complete. Now what I'm going to go ahead and do is just tie up these loose ends. I'm going to take my needle and thread and go ahead and sew down all of these hanging ends to get them out of the way. And I'm just going to go ahead and do the same thing like I mentioned earlier with these other 4 sections. Just going to go ahead and sew the braid in between the parts to make it nice and flat. After all of our loose ends are tied down, we're going to go ahead and grab a weaving net, and I'm just going to go ahead and secure this over the hair. I like using a weaving net because I feel like it puts less tension on my client's hair. And I always refer to my clients because I do not get sew-ins. I prefer wigs over sew-ins, but we can talk about that later in another video. But a lot of my girls still get sew-ins, and I respect you guys for doing so. You are free to make your own decisions. So I just wanted to show you guys how I do it, just in case it might help you out a little bit. So I'm just going to go ahead and fit this weaving net onto her hair and just make sure that it is covering all the braids that we're going to be sewing down to. And again, I'm going to take my needle and thread and just go around the perimeter and secure it down this net so that way it doesn't go anywhere. After I'm done sewing down the perimeter, be very, very, very careful and just go ahead and cut off that excess net that you have hanging out around your leave out there. Once that's all gone, I'm going to go ahead and take any excess cap, tie it in a nice tight knot, and just snip off the end of that. And that little piece can get sewn down as I start sewing my tracks. So now that our foundation is ready, we're going to go ahead and grab our hair. And for this particular style, she was not keeping it in long, so she did get some hair from Beauty Supply Store, also known as pack hair, i.e. not virgin hair, which is fine. Some people still like to rock out with the Milky Way. I don't judge. But again, like I said, this was just a quick style that she was keeping in for an event for the weekend. And I'm going to go ahead and start this track in the front because of the way that I want the hair to flow towards her face. So I'm going to go ahead and lay this first track, and I'm just taking my needle and thread and just consistently making small 1/2 inch stitches down to that anchor braid. Now, if she did want hair out in the back so that way she could put her hair up in a ponytail, we would do the same thing that we did with our part, is just basically leave out about a 1/2 inch of hair towards the back of the head and just kind of secure it with a rubber band and not braided it down or sewn any hair to it. But because she did not want any of her hair out in the back, that's why we're sewing down the track directly to the back of her, to the last braid in her head. Now, as we head up towards the front of the head, you guys can see the little area that I left as leave out around her edges to make sure that it's going to cover our track. And I'm just going to cut off the extra track. That's cap there, guys. I'm not cutting her hair, I promise. And this is what it looks like once that first track is laid down. Now what I'm going to go ahead and do is just start sewing the tracks about a 1/2 inch apart from each other. And I'm going to lay them actually straight across her head now, up until I get towards the crown of her head. And when I get to the end of my track, I'm just going to go ahead and make a little knot and cut that thread and also cut that track. And I'm going to move on to my next row. So here we are at the end of our first pack of hair, and this is how far we've gotten up her head. You guys see the way that I'm laying the tracks, still kind of curving them up towards my part there in the front because I want the tracks to be direction more towards her face. And I'm going to go ahead and open up this second pack of hair and start sewing that down as well. So this is what we have as I am approaching the end of this install, and I'm just sewing the last few tracks down around the perimeter of my part, and I'm showing you guys how I'm laying those tracks so that they're nice and flat, and I'm just going to continue sewing. And this is my very last track that's going in. And you guys can see how close it is to my part. And I'm still sewing through the braid and around my track. And same thing on the other side. And then we're done, and this is what it looks like. So now I'm just going to go ahead and start blending her hair down with the weave, and I'm using a flat iron to do this and a little bit of serum. Now again, this was pack hair, beauty supply store hair, not, you know, like Miori hair, virgin hair, or anything like that. So I had to be really careful about the amount of heat that was used on this hair. And now we're gonna go ahead and get to the cutting. Now, whenever you're cutting a bob, you always want to start off cutting long because the moment you go short, you can't get that length back. You could always take off length, but you can't ever get length back. So, starting really, really short, I'm just going to go ahead and start taking this hair up above the shoulder into the short bob that you want. And I'm using my clippers to cut After cutting, I'm just going to go ahead and bump the ends a little bit and finish off the style, and we are done. In total, I would say that this took me maybe about 3 hours from start to finish, and this will last you anywhere for I've seen people wear their sew-ins up to like 2-3 months at a time, but it can definitely last you for about 6 weeks, 4 to 6 weeks. Please do not forget to give this video a thumbs up if it was helpful and you learned something today. And if you are in the Atlanta area and you want me to do your hair or sew your hair in, I will leave my contact information down below. Thank you guys so much for watching. As always, I love you guys so much. Until my next video. Bye!